We're live from LightFair, and we are quite glad to be joined by Dan Blitzer of the Practical Lighting Workshop. Welcome back to Get a Grip on Lighting, Dan.
Thank you very much.
Before we go there, Greg, we got to keep it easy, buddy. How do we do that?
You go to Keystone.
Go to Keystone Tech.
You go to their booth.
Yeah.
If not, you go to their website.
You go to KeystoneTech.com. That's KeystoneTech.com for the big easy Keystone. Dan, welcome back to Get a Grip on Lighting. It's a live stream. I was talking with Tom Butters, and he said that we have to know more about the Teachers Lighting Workshop.
The Teachers of Lighting Workshop is a well-established program to help people learn how to teach lighting at the university level.
Wow.
And it's been in abeyance for several years for all the reasons we understand. And the Knuckles Fund, in conjunction with the IES, is bringing it back in 2026. And we're very excited about this.
Amen.
Yeah, tell us, what does it look like? What is the program all about?
Well, the program is all about how do people who are new to lighting education as teachers get the material that they need to teach responsibly and the techniques that they need to teach with inspiration and passion, which is what almost anybody who's gone through lighting has taken away as the number one benefit, is they've been inspired. And in lighting, there's so much to be inspired by.
So you guys, it's a newer thing, or it's something that happened in the past and it's coming back?
It's something that's been very successful over many years.
Okay.
Went into abeyance. The issues with the IES and its resources meant that it was appropriate to find a partner. The Knuckles Fund was interested. Naturally, we support and fund lighting education. So we said we'd like to be partners with you in this. And so it's a joint activity. It will have sponsors on the corporate side as well to make it happen. And we will have participants from the teacher side from across the country, haven't been selected yet, and students from across the country haven't been selected yet. But it kicks off in June of 2026, by which time we'll have, of course, a full curriculum and participants.
Are there enough lighting training centers anymore? When we kind of grew up in lighting, and I started in about 2006, Michael was before that, you were before that, but we had centers that you could go to, manufacturers that had education centers. I don't really see that as much anymore. Is that coming back? Is it going to look different? What do you feel?
I don't think there's any reason why you wouldn't want to have the ability to show, demonstrate, and experience lighting. What seems to be the challenge is the tremendous cost of transportation, bringing people from where they are to where the demonstrations are.
So much better, though, when you do that.
So we've got a commitment to host this program in Peachtree City with Cooper Lighting, who has one of the remaining facilities for this. But even in New York City, which has lots and lots of interest in lighting, there is a shortage of places where people can go to do demonstrations. So it's a need. It's a need, but it's cost-driven.
Yeah. No, it's something that, I feel like that's how I learned the best, was seeing the hands-on and having it right in front of you. You can do it online, you can look at catalogs, but to actually see it, touch it, feel it, that's what it's about, in my opinion.
It also takes time for the people who teach in those environments to learn what demonstrations really take and which ones are essentially live versions of virtual, and they don't work.
Yeah. And you know what we found within NAILD, so we're not teaching teachers in NAILD, we're teaching people that are starting off in lighting, or maybe at the intermediate level with our controls course that Webster's teaching.
I do.
But Webster's may be somebody who's a candidate for this kind of thing. I don't know if he's ready for that yet. But there's a difference between video on demand, live online, and in person. And those are three totally different, useful, albeit. I'm not saying that video on demand is not part of the whole teaching format. And live online is better than video on demand, though. And then in person is better than live online. And you also, when you're there, when you can smell the smells, I know it sounds weird, but there's something about going to some place to learn something which expands the neural networks that are ready to learn. There's something about that.
Well, lighting is fundamentally a visual experience, and if you don't experience it live, it takes so much longer to get even a rudimentary appreciation of how it works. And you think about all of the university level classes where people watch slides and hear lectures, and maybe some pieces of equipment are passed around. So how do they learn how to see? Well, we all learn how to see from childhood, but we don't really learn how to see, do we? Because seeing light, which is invisible, is more difficult.
I think we see darkness. I don't think we see light. You understand what I mean? I think it's reversed. A lot of that terminology is reversed. It goes back to the point about light pollution. Light pollution, light is not polluted, darkness is polluted. It's actually, you don't say that, that mercury is polluted when it's in the air. You say the air is polluted, right? The darkness is actually polluted. It's, I think we're overly focused as an industry on one half of the spectrum, which is electric illumination. And there's a whole other half of the spectrum which is allowing for darkness to be there and with us.
Well, do you think you're making progress with this point of view?
Yes.
I think you are too. You are too. What's challenging is how hard it is for people to experience darkness as opposed to less light. That is to say, dim and it's not dark in terms of your visual experience. If you're thinking about skies that are dark, for example, where do you go? Where have you been? Where it's dark, where you can see the stars without.
There's a lot of talk about circadian too, Dan, and what's being discovered is that it's not exposure to light that entrains your circadian rhythm, it's exposure to darkness which entrains your circadian rhythm. You need the darkness. The light is that whether your light is this Kelvin or that Kelvin or this intensity during the day or this time, what you need is that time with the darkness. But I always take it off topic with this, but yes.
I think it's very much on topic because this is part of what people need to understand as part of their education in lighting.
Yes.
Right? Not just the terminology, right? Not just the relationships and the calculations and things like that, but also how you teach people to experience it and what they should be experiencing so that they can pass that education on to young designers and others who are part of the educational process in lighting.
How many LightFairs have you been to?
Not all of them, but many of them.
Many.
Of them.
Over 20?
Well, that's a pretty safe guess looking at me.
I think we've almost been to 20.
I might have been to 20 myself, yeah.
But, so, whether it's for new products or very much this show, new ideas of presenting products, or just the opportunity to mix and mingle with a vibrant industry.
Sure.
You got to be here.
You said that, I want to ask you one more question, and then you said that you had some of your own thoughts. I don't know if we've covered everything. Do you think, listen, I love LightFair. We all are supporters of LightFair, but it's certainly a lot smaller than it used to be when you walk this show. It used to take you a lot longer to walk the whole show than it does now. Do you think it's time for, on a company, products, this kind of level, is the lighting industry going into a phase of shrinkage and reduction? Is it consolidation? Is it maybe we need to learn some more stuff? It feels to me that the energy is not here. It's a better energy. It's not a ecstatic energy, but it's a subdued energy that's here at LightFair this year.
I would say this is a more challenging LightFair because you can't visit a half a dozen really large, diversified companies and think you have done your job you have to walk around this show. You have to investigate smaller companies, brands that you haven't seen before, technologies that may not be immediately visible to you, to benefit from it. Do I think that's a good thing? Phenomenally. That is to say, yes, there's consolidation, and yes, by the way, there's value to being a large, diversified enterprise, especially one that has the wherewithal to withstand the buffeting of an economy. But you also need to have small-scale, atomistic enterprises take risks, investigate things that may not make it onto the chart for a larger company in terms of the profit opportunity and so forth. And that seems to me to be what you experience here, along with brighter colors, more interesting contrast of, as you would say, you can look at the dark in this place. And I'll notice, by the way, that we're not sitting in the dark. We're sitting in bright lights.
We are.
Well, that's because we're broadcasting, Daniel.
Is that right?
Did you have any I know you had said you had a few things that you were thinking about. What do you, from largely the audience of this show is frontliners, so agents, distributors, contractors, some lighting designers. What thoughts does Dan Blitzer have for them in 2025?
I'd like to stress the importance of education in lighting in the full range of how you can experience it. That is to say, the Knuckles Fund, where I serve, mostly supports university-level education, which is not just for lighting designers, but is very much for interior designers who arguably have much more influence in the built environment than lighting specialists. But there's also the vast number of, if you will, non-university level continuing education professional development programs, which I'm also involved, by the way, but most of the time, and you do it as well, are essential for bringing the professionalism of our industry up to a level where we can be confident that we're delivering an appropriate product, both in terms of the design and the equipment, to the marketplace. And if I were to say one thing...
I struggle with that confidence now. I'll be honest
I'll
with you.
bet you do.
Yeah.
I'll bet you do. So if I had a thought, it is, we have, our expectations for ourselves are far too low.
I agree.
We need to raise our expectations, demand more of ourselves in every aspect, and then perhaps people will expect more of us, and the whole quality of what we do in lighting, whether it's a design, whether it's a product, whether it's a service, will rise. But it won't rise if we don't expect it to.
Dan Blitzer, ladies and gentlemen, always a pleasure to have you on Get a Grip on Lighting.
Thank you very
and here
much.
on the live stream. I invite all you guys to come down to LightFair if you're in the area. If you can fly in, get in here. But in the meantime, go to KeystoneTech.com, Greg Ehrich. That's KeystoneTech.com.